Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a handful of NBA legends that managed to miss the playoffs during some of the prime years of their careers. And the reason I'm bringing this up should be pretty obvious to you if you're someone that's following the NBA at all so far this season, because one of the best players of all time in many people's estimation, and in some people's estimation, maybe even the greatest player of all time, LeBron James, is in very, very dire circumstances at the moment with the LA Lakers in terms of their possibilities for making the playoffs. As of this recording, the Lakers are pretty significantly outside of the playoff picture in the Western Conference, and even at this stage of LeBron's career, when most people consider him to be slightly past his prime, it would be a huge event if he did end up missing the playoffs. But I also just wanted to take this opportunity to remind a few people of some huge NBA legends that did end up missing the playoffs in their prime. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started with the list. Number 1. Charles Barkley with the 87-88 and 91-92 Philadelphia 76ers. Charles Barkley is without question a true NBA legend. Where you rank him in your own personal list of top 50 or top 30 NBA players of all time is completely up to you, but I think we can come to a consensus and say that he is truly a legend in NBA history. But that legendary status did not stop him from missing the playoffs pretty early in his career twice with the Philadelphia 76ers, despite having outstanding individual seasons. Let's begin with that 87-88 season. Julius Erving had just announced his retirement from the team, and Barkley entered the season for the first time as the Sixers' true franchise player. A role that, from an on-court and statistical perspective, Barkley took to extremely well, playing in 80 games and putting up incredible numbers, averaging over 28 points and nearly 12 rebounds a game on outstanding efficiency from the field. He appeared in his second All-Star game and was named to the All-NBA first team, but for the first time in a long time, since the 74-75 season to be exact, the Philadelphia 76ers failed to make the playoffs. Moving on now to that 91-92 season, this was actually Barkley's final year in Philadelphia. He had another incredible statistical season, albeit a little bit lower than that 87-88 season, and was named to his 6th straight All-Star appearance and 2nd team All-NBA. His 7th straight appearance on either the 1st or 2nd team All-NBA. But missing the playoffs and having a lackluster supporting cast around him did not really sit all that well with Barkley, and after that season he demanded a trade, which was ultimately granted to him when he was traded to the Suns in 1992. And Barkley's story is really just a reminder that no matter how great a player is, sometimes things just don't work out, whether it be because of a lack of a supporting cast, whether it be just not a very good fit between coach and player, or player and other players, whatever it is, sometimes even players as great as Charles Barkley just don't manage to put it all together even in the prime of their careers and end up missing the playoffs, and that's exactly what happened with Barkley. Number 2. Hakeem Olajuwon, the 91-92 Houston Rockets. The Hakeem Olajuwon era with the Houston Rockets is pretty often looked upon really fondly. This is a team that ended up winning multiple championships. Hakeem was a pillar of that team and someone that was generally well liked, but something that gets kind of glossed over is the fact that there were certainly bumps in the road, most specifically this 91-92 season. They finished 42-40 and missed the playoffs for the first time in Hakeem's career, partially as a result of Olajuwon missing 2 weeks early in the season due to an accelerated heartbeat. And the thing is, the Rockets missing the playoffs that season really didn't have all that much to do with Olajuwon specifically. He had another great statistical season, and after the season was really frustrated not only with the team's record and their inability to surround him with better talent, but also the fact that he really wasn't being paid all that well compared to some of the other really good centers in the league, which Hakeem certainly was. Things got so bad that Olajuwon actually requested a trade because he felt like the Rockets cared more about cutting corners and trying to make sure that they were making money than they were about winning. Things got ugly on both sides as parts of the organization accused Olajuwon of faking injuries because he was unhappy over his contract. And leading up to the 92-93 season, it was assumed by a lot of people that Olajuwon's trade request would ultimately be granted and that there was really no way for the two sides to reconcile their differences. Now, obviously that never happened. The two sides were able to work out their differences, and Olajuwon was not traded from the Rockets at that point in time. But it's just interesting looking back and comparing these players to kind of a situation that we're experiencing now in the modern NBA, where there's a lot of players requesting trades, a lot of superstars that are unhappy with their current team situation, and they kind of get a label as a diva. But we're 2 players into this list, and both of them requested trades from their teams, one of them granted, one not granted, because they were frustrated in part with the team just not surrounding them with good enough players. So it's just interesting how things have shifted in our minds, and maybe it's a bit of revisionist history to think of older players or more historical players as guys that were able to stick it out through tough team situations and not want to go other places to try and make championship runs, where nowadays people are accused of that left and right, and it's probably true, but it's not something that is completely unforeseen with some of these other NBA legends. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the 74-75 Bucks, and the 75-76 LA Lakers. Leading up to the 74-75 season for the Milwaukee Bucks, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was coming off of an MVP season the year before, but it actually ended up being his last season with the team. Despite being seen as pretty durable for most of his career, he did have some injury issues to begin the 74 season, including an incident in which he got his eye scratched, which is part of the reason he ended up wearing his infamous goggles, and then proceeding to punch the basket support stanchion and breaking his hand, causing him to miss the first 16 games of the 74-75 season. After he returned, however, he did manage to play 65 games and put up great numbers, but the team finished 6 games under 500 and missed the playoffs. Which leads us once again to another trade request, the third in 3 players on this list, but this didn't really have as much to do with the team around Abdul-Jabbar. I'm sure he was frustrated with it, as any competitor would be, but really he just didn't feel like the city of Milwaukee was meeting his cultural needs, even though he felt well embraced by the community and requested a trade to either LA or the Knicks, which was obviously granted because he was traded to the LA Lakers the following season, which is what we're going to talk about now. In 1975, the Lakers acquired Kareem for a whole bunch of players and pretty much gutted their roster in order to bring him in, and as a result, they struggled in Kareem's first season in LA. Abdul-Jabbar as an individual had outstanding numbers and led the league in rebounding, block shots, and minutes played, and even earned his 4th MVP award and played in all 82 regular season games. But once again, ended up missing the postseason for the 2nd straight year. Now obviously his trade request ended up working out extremely well for him later on, but initially he didn't have all that much success, and this is probably the best player ever to miss the playoffs directly in his prime. And it's not 100% the same scenario as what LeBron is experiencing right now with the Lakers, because obviously this was a trade situation as opposed to a free agency situation, and there's a good amount of talent surrounding LeBron, but there is a little bit of precedent for a player as great as Kareem and as great as LeBron missing the playoffs in the middle of their career. It doesn't make an excuse for it, but it is something that has happened before, although LeBron is much older than Kareem was at the time that he missed the playoffs. And last up now, number 4, Kevin Garnett, the 2004 all the way through the 2007 Minnesota Timberwolves. Leading up to the 04-05 season, Kevin Garnett was seen as one of the bright shining stars in the NBA and someone that had led the franchise to a lot of playoff success, at least in terms of getting his team there, but maybe not so much in advancing in the postseason. Garnett was coming off of an MVP season in the year immediately prior in the 03-04 season. And in 04-05, he had another outstanding year, was named to 2nd team All-NBA, but the Timberwolves missed the playoffs. In 05-06, Latrell Sprewell turned down an extension, the team traded away Sam Cassell, and their record plummeted even further. And from there, things continued to get worse for Garnett until the 2007 offseason, when the Timberwolves did ultimately trade him to the Boston Celtics, where he experienced a lot of team success and even won himself a championship alongside Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Rajon Rondo. And just like with every other member of this list so far, there's a bit of a lesson to be learned here, and that's just that maybe it takes some players a little bit longer to earn a real reputation in the league as something that they truly are, because at the time that Garnett was traded from Minnesota to Boston, he was seen as not necessarily a loser, but also not a champion, a great winner, someone that could get his team to the playoffs and even at one point get them to the conference finals, but never really get them over the hump, never get them to the finals all by himself, which is really kind of what we put on star players these days as well as back then. But once he was moved to Boston, he obviously won a championship. He was a great winner there, someone that was seen as a great team guy, which wasn't necessarily not the case in Minnesota, but he came more of a bigger part of his persona and a bigger part of his reputation once he was in Boston. And that's something that really only came about once he changed teams. And I don't really think that anybody would say that Kevin Garnett was entirely different between Boston and Minnesota. It's just a different situation, a better situation, and one that ultimately fit him better. So it's a bit of a cautionary tale moving forward to just think about the fact that even if a player is in what might be seen as a good situation, that might not be showing us everything that we're going to end up seeing from them from a leadership standpoint, from a team standpoint. And Kevin Garnett is a great example of that, going from someone that maybe some people saw as a loser to someone that now is seen as an outstanding competitor and one of the better winners that we've seen in recent years in the NBA. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.